Assalamu alaikum. Ishnamek. Me hamdallah. Yes, this is Living in the Matrix. And as I told you, brothers and sisters, before, I was going to actually do a little piece on our place, so to speak, in professional wrestling. And I have a background in professional wrestling, so I think that, in a sense, I'm sort of an authority on it. Coming from the old school part of the business, growing up in the 80s and whatnot, and pretty much being around the business since about 1986. I was about 16 years old when I went to my first show with my buddy and whatnot that started like years before me. And he was about 19, and he started at what most of you would know today as PCW. It was called Pro Wrestling International, and they had a small school over on Lawrence in a very, very little room where they fit, I think, a 16 by 16 ring fit right there in that small little room, and it had a low ceiling and the whole shebang there. And there were guys like old school guys like Chicago guys, Terry the Hammer Scholl and Tony the Razor, DeVito, I believe it was, and a whole lot of the local guys that some of you got, like a lot of you, younger folks don't even know. I mean, at the time, I didn't even know who they were, but I knew that they were wrestlers in Chicago, workers in Chicago. I remember when my buddy broke in, he was the only brother, that was actually in the company starting. There was one other guy. His name was Lightning Lonnie King. And Lightning Lonnie King, I think I was there for the first day of his practice when we were just up there looking, and everything. And, he had a lot of potential, and he was starting out very well. He was very good. The only thing was after a while, when he really got into doing the shows, they wanted him, to do some stupid gimmicks, that was supposed to appeal to the black demographic, is how they put it. I felt like that, it was very racist what they wanted him to do, and I think this was around the time that not many black wrestlers were getting highlighted. This was during the time of the Crockett, era, which I'm gonna get more. I'm gonna get more into that because I'm an old schooler. That was my favorite time in professional wrestling. But to really look at it, I think it would have been even better had me, being a 16 or 17-year-old kid, had actually, I would have been more enthusiastic about getting into the business had I seen someone that looked like me, that, could, talk a mile on a stick and could work. That's the guy that I was looking to see. I was looking to see that, and we just, our people just never really had that, and the people that could do it, they were still, working the indies. They didn't reach the NWA or the WWF at that time. They didn't reach those areas. These guys were, these guys were like very, very well hidden. They were like the diamonds in the rough. They were hidden, and I'm gonna get more into that, of why they were hidden later. Um, but I was interested in, our place in professional wrestling, and I had did some digging and a little while back, and came across some information of the first black professional wrestler. It wasn't until like 1870, I believe, and he was a free slave. He had just became a free man, and he had gotten into the professional wrestling game, and his wrestling name was Black Sam, but his real name was Vero Small, or Smalls, or something to that extent. And he was a big money maker, like all over the region. He held some regional titles. He had charisma. He had a body. He was everything that at the time that a promoter would dream of. The only thing, he was black. And one night, the promoters decided to put this cat, Vero Smalls, aka Black Sam, against some local white wrestler named Billy McCullum. Well, that night, since since Black Sam was the bigger star, he was to go over in that match. Well, he went over in the match, but this didn't sit too well with Mr. Billy McCullum, that later on that night went into his room and shot him in the neck and shot him dead, like right in his hotel room. I mean, these are the things that black professional wrestlers had to deal with. And does it still go on today? Not the violence part, but politics is the most strongest thing in professional wrestling, and everybody knows it. And let's not put up the smoke and mirrors. This is the real deal, And a lot of people are not going to want to hear this. A lot of people are going to pretty much shy away from it and sweep it under the rug, and well, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. No, you're going to hear it. Because this is real life. This is true. These things happened. And I feel that our people, in the professional wrestling game, especially dating back, to Black Sam and a whole lot of other unnamed, unsung wrestlers, like throughout the history of this business. I think that for the first time, I think people need to know about them. Just like we have Mexican legends and Puerto Rican legends, in the business, that I'm sure that a lot of people going back in history haven't even heard of them. And I suggest that, look, do your own digging and come up with it. I mean, this is a very, very profitable business, and the only one winning the monopoly is someone like Vince McMahon. He's winning the monopoly. He's the one. He's the sole winner of the game. He's like, the guy that owns absolutely everything. Every professional wrestling library, from AWA to World Class to even Mid-South. He owns all of that. Everything that belonged to Jim Crockett Promotions, Vince now owns it. He owns the entire, when he bought WCW, that was it. He bought everything that went along with WCW, including the entire Crockett, era video collection, everything. So Vince is like the owner of the entire, really the entire wrestling monopoly. And I really feel that, people out there, should, really wake up and really see it for what it really is, And I suggest like the brothers and sisters, that want to, and this doesn't only go out to, to my, to my black brothers and sisters. This goes out to everybody. Look, if there's something you don't like, if there's something that you disagree with, you have to speak up. That's the only way you're going to change it. You have to speak up. You have to speak on it. You have to stand your ground, because, okay, I just talked to a friend of mine and he said that the WrestleMania last night, was, it was lackluster. It was, it was terrible, which I predicted anyway because I had seen, when I was in Kuwait, I'd seen a lot of the promos. We used to get like the Monday Night Raws and everything, like maybe a week or two after the original, live show aired. So I got a chance to really sit down maybe once in a while to watch it. And what I watched, was pretty horrifying. I mean, this is the alternative that people got. This is what the consumer gets. They just get WWE and whack ass TNA and that's it. With no people of ethnicity, to drive these storylines along. It's the same people. It's the same people. And I'm not gonna get into black or white, but okay, it's gonna be hard to do. All right, look. There's a lot of people on top that are not African American. There's a lot of people on top that are not Latino. There's a lot of people on top that are not in those positions of power, so to speak, in the business. And I think, to tell you the truth, I think that a whole bunch of us need to get together and stuff and build something. I mean, I think a whole bunch of us need to get together and try to build on something. But going back to the history of the business, here's a little known fact that you probably don't even know. In 1962, one of the biggest stars, black athletes in the entire business, Bobo Brazil, okay, whom he used to come into my grandma's restaurant too and eat, and he used to shop at One Stop on the south side of Chicago and whatnot. But anyway, in 1962, Bobo Brazil won the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. But I mean, and let me tell you, he beat Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, went over on Nature Boy Buddy Rogers for the NWA World Heavyweight title. Well, here's something that's really, that's really ridiculous. The NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, never acknowledged Bobo Brazil to be the legitimate NWA World Heavyweight Champion. So although he beat Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, it is not etched down in the annals of history that he was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion or the true legitimate NWA World Heavyweight Champion. It's quite sad. What's even sadder than that is because if you count in the last, let's say 50 years, okay, of world championships, count how many black men actually held the world championships in the last 50 years. Okay, think about it. Okay, think about it. In the last 50 years, how many black world champions has it been? How many Latino world champions has it been for major titles? How many from Japan actually won? Okay, won the major championships, in either TNA or WWE. I can tell you in the last 50 years, it's only been 4, maybe 5, okay, African American world heavyweight champions, which some may have won 2, may have been 2-time champions. You know, so you can just count that as one. You can count that as one. I mean, so think about it. You know, we still face a lot of racism in this business. And whether people want to know it or not, okay, and you know, they don't want to admit it. And I know a lot of guys out there that don't want to admit it, that it exists, but it does, because they have big dreams of someday reaching the WWE or, you know, TNA. And